now.
The July meeting of Buckinghamshire Council Planning Committee. Before we start, we do have one public speaker, Fisher Reddy from the 5 afternoon. We've got 3 minutes to address the committee, but then we will put questions back. If you could just stand up and thank you very much.
To reiterate what I put online on my objection just regarding the planning in Bath Lane. Basically the planning's with 3 additional houses down Bath Lane between the old cottages and the Bath Lane terrace. I think there needs to be some serious considerations. You know, I think the fact that we are in the conservation area, the old cottages, like 1820s, a lot of cottages are. Need to really be thinking about the infrastructure of the roads. We've got old Victorian drains, which sort of sometimes do their job, not always. The impact of the traffic, you know, we have cars parked along the road all the time. You know, they haven't got, you know, garages. The road narrows where I am to about sort of 9 foot. You've got some tight gaps there. If you're walking on the road, people are dodging in and out. We've got, I think, for also the cottages, they are dug into the bank, but basically are gardens are high. We have some real problems with drainage. Now, I myself am quite concerned about that because I've had to do things for drainage. I think at the moment that area acts as somewhere which the rain can go. It can either drain into the soil or it can use that area to come back down and go into the storm drains. We've had flash flooding recently, and we have had issues with the storm drains coming up from where the obviously sewerage is rising. Those things need to be sort of looked at. Also, the old cottages, the cottages where I am, I'm one in the middle. We have a right of way across the land. That on the plans, all it has been put on there at the moment is just it's marked on the plan. It hasn't been discussed. The realities of that have not been looked at. When it was done last time we went through the council, we actually had a solicitor who had been appointed by who had put the planning in, who came to us to say, you know, you've got a right to play. That has not been done on this occasion, and that is a big concern. I think for all of us who are in those cottages, we want to retain that right of way. At the moment, the proposal is making it smaller. It's also putting it down some steps, which when you're saying that the covenant is basically that it was not that way, again, something else that needs to be considered. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions to Patricia? No, Patricia, what we'll do, if you wish to stay on, we will bring the committee's agreement, your item forward to the first in planning. So is everyone happy to do that?
With that.
Yes,
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We've just got some housekeeping to do first.
Yes,
So
surely,
you
absolutely.
can hear how we're going to discuss your application. Thank you, everyone. First of all, apologies for absence, Paul.
Councillor Jane Morgan, Councillor Wright, Councillor Lynn.
Thank you very much. Noted. Thank you, everyone. Declarations of interest, item 2. Robin.
My usual interest in case we suddenly have a meeting in Aylesbury. And I'm called to the bar to make a decision. There's always that possibility as I sit there.
Councillor Harley, John.
Yeah, I had my hair cut at my Mayo's. And it's a rarity for that way. I did know that, and I did discuss with him about the protection on the outside briefly and so on. So I think it'd be best to they have that discussion.
Thank you. Mayor, I believe
You didn't have.
you suggested you might want to leave early tonight.
Oh, yes, I am awfully sorry. Yes, I with Egley Parish Council, and so I'm going to give both this and an equally unsatisfactory amount of.
I understand that's your birthday today.
It is my birthday. I feared you might all sing, therefore I'm not going to say.
We promise not to sing.
In that case,
Will
that's
the
okay.
mayor be bringing a cake for the next meeting so that we can sing to her and
If you promise not to sing, I will bring a cake
That's
to the
a deal.
next council meeting.
I can't sing, so that's a deal.
And wait for it, they've got hot cross buns on offer at the moment.
Bit strange year,
Right.
time of year for that.
Item 3, to note the minutes of the planning committee that's held on the 17th of June will be presented to the next meeting in August.
Noted.
Item 4, review of training needs, Steve.
So just an annual reminder that all committees should consider what training or courses any of their members might find. Reminder that we circulate them from time to time as we get them, notification from various sources, and if members are interested in a training or the opportunity to give to the town clerk, please.
Thank you. Robin?
It might be worth just the office looking at the interest, prejudice and interest around planning again. Because it's always difficult. I did some training the other day and needless to say it wasn't, but there's lots of ambiguity in these things about whether you have pecuniary interest and whether you have a financial interest and where the line draws. It might not necessarily need a training session, but written advice, because sometimes we all have difficulties like working that out and getting it wrong. The law around it is quite strong, so we don't want anyone getting the wrong side of that. Not deliberately, but other people might act so that they are in the wrong. So I think that might be something worth looking at, whether we need a clerk's note about those things rather than a training session.
Emailed around, couldn't it?
You know, to save everyone having an evening out, because it keeps getting tighter. My experience.
Okay, I'll start with having a look at just remind myself of the wording on the declarations that everybody signs, but I'll investigate further as well.
Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. Any other questions to Steve? No, thank you. Item 5, Buckingham Neighbourhood Plan, Vale Plan, Buckinghamshire Local Plan. You'll all be well aware that at our last council meeting, we have actually kicked off Regulation 14 consultation. Nina has put a press release out today that you'll all have seen, where the mayor and myself both encourage people to take part in the consultation. There'll be some drop-in sessions which have been circulated, and again, they've all those places are being filled on Wednesday the 24th, Saturday the 17th, and Tuesday the 27th of July. So that is proceeding at pace. I don't think there's anything else on there. So item 6. Sorry, Robin.
I think it's appropriate to record our thanks to both your good self and Anthony and Roger, who have played a large part in getting us to this point of view. I've not been to every meeting because I've been in other meetings, but what I will say is the three of you have worked tirelessly together with other members and people to get to where we are, and officers, and it's well worth. And I propose that we record our thanks within the minutes, because it's not been easy, and sometimes it's been because of the way the meetings have to be scheduled down to those who are available, not those who are willing. It's quite different. So I think we should record our thanks to you both, especially, and Roger.
Yeah.
Thank you. Gratefully accepted. Thank you.
I just made an absolute nuisance of myself.
Item 6, before we get to the planning applications, North Bucks Parishes Planning Consortium to receive and discuss the minutes of the June meeting. Anthony.
Thank you. It's just to request the council or the committee to receive the minutes. If you may recall, I gave a verbal report last time round because they hadn't been published at that point, but in the interim they have been, so I sent a copy in, and there they are in Appendix A. Unless you want to ask me anything, I don't plan saying further.
Thank you for sending them.
It's my pleasure.
Maybe no.
Thank you.
Note the report.
Yeah, yes,
Thank you.
yeah.
Robin.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony, for them. I mean, the one which interests me, which it might not seem like it indirectly affects us, but it does affect us, is the Wadden Salden Chase and the bit round there. And I'm pleased that it's been looked at where it is. I've touched on it and looked at it oddly enough, and it seems to me that that's a large chunk of development, and it makes huge difference to education in Buckingham when it comes forward. It makes huge difference to traffic, and it also, it's a very strange development. If anyone's been out there and looked at it, you have 30 metres between Milton Keynes and Bletchley area and the Vale. It's that close. It's unbelievably close, and I'm sure there'll be much discussion to come forward as it's implemented, because it looked to me, in my limited discussions, that the entrance from the Salton Chase end into the settled community of Milton Keynes didn't look possible, in the sense that it didn't look enough width there. But I'm sure that argument will persist, and the education issues will come to be a challenge to us all, I expect.
I would just respond to say that because of the extreme closeness, I would have thought that we obviously got to keep an eye on any of our services and transportation. But equally, of course, with Milton Keynes being so close, there's going to be a spill eastwards just as much, and it's going to put under pressure. And I'm not in a position to comment further than that, but it does need a clear eye. And the fact that we haven't got the A21 report so far, and it seems to be kept being delayed, it would be very interesting to see how anything in that might affect transport. They are already talking about a bit of dual carriageway work beyond the edge of Milton Keynes to the Wadden roundabout. Well, that could be a slippery slope, couldn't it? Or it could be something rather good, but time will tell.
Thank you, Anthony, for raising that. One of the concerns that we do have in Buckingham is the route, which brings us back to the work that's been done in the neighbourhood plan. There didn't seem to be any real acknowledgement of it. There was supposed to be further meetings to advise people of this, and they've been delayed, stored, and whatever. And then, of course, we've had an election. So, but the figures for the housing figures were 300 and something thousand across South East. Those figures hasn't changed from maybe the same figures since the early noughties. So the one thing which I think members have said here is it isn't sustainable to dual it through the middle of Buckingham, with everything going on and the new cemetery and new developments. So I hope they'll come back to this town council at some point with a conversation around it, because it's the largest settled area. When the bypass was constructed, as chairman will know, there was nothing on the other side of the bypass, and now it's not true. So I do think that they need to come back to us. I don't know what's the most appropriate way to pursue that.
What we're doing, we're considering the report Anthony's given us, so we can't move off that.
Yeah,
we've got another question for him on the report.
No, just through you, Chairman, maybe through the good work you're doing down there, we could prod them for an early update on their aspirations of what they want to do. Because it not only just affects us, it affects everyone linear along the route, especially probably Waddesdon in some ways.
Anthony, is this something North Bucks Parishes Planning Consortium can raise on our behalf?
Yes, I mean, just as a general thought while Robin was speaking, the MBPPC and our involvement with it, I think, is quite valuable, because we do learn things that are going on outside our parish, and consequently we can start slotting some of the things and maybe see the clouds of the horses' hooves as they come galloping down the road a bit sooner than we otherwise would. I'm being a bit poetic now, but you take my point.
I agree with that.
Thank you. Any other questions for Anthony on that?
No.
We could note that report.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In that case, we can move on to planning applications. And as agreed, we're going to move item 11, land north of One Spark Lane, to the top of the list. Right. So this is the creation of 3 dwellings, 3-bedroom dwellings, and associated gardens, parking, and bin and bike stores on the waste ground in Bath Lane. It is just outside the conservation area, the abut it. The southern end of Bath Lane is in the conservation overlay. This isn't, but nonetheless, planners have to take note of the close proximity of a conservation area, just as they do with listed buildings. You've seen Catherine's report. It's got a very checkered history, this site. Had 5 applications under a previous developer, which were never enacted. One of them is refused, and there's been 3 since, with another developer, one which was withdrawn, and the last 2, the latest in 2011, having been refused. So it's come back again now. It's this piece of rough ground on the west side between the terrace of Victorian cottages and the 2 detached houses that are all at street level. Looking at the notes, on the planning portal, there are currently 5 objections, and we've learned tonight the 6th objection to the area 1 of Salisbury cottages. Most of them relate to the sewage capacity. These are Victorian sewers. There have been drainage problems. There's been runoff at the back from Westfields. One thing that we haven't seen is a surface water drainage report, a SUDS report. That's not on there yet, and I thought this would be crying out for that from the SUDS people. You've all read Catherine's report, so let's open it to the floor. And I know that Buckingham Society have a strong view about this. Carolyn?
We do. As it stands, the current application, we would strongly object to. Having read all the neighbours' comments online and heard Patricia tonight, I can only say that they all make extremely good material objections. Top of the list might be the drainage and the access. As pointed out, there's no pavement along that bit of Bath Lane. I think Mr. Richardson from Salisbury Cottages pointed out that there's an emergency access from the university land opposite the site, which doesn't bode very well. And emergency vehicles generally will have enormous difficulty accessing the whole area. Apart from those issues, which are substantial, the drainage, of course, and the landslip side is very relevant. Pedestrian access is dangerous. And then we go back to design. The site really reads better with the 1820 cottages to the south rather than the Westfields extension to the north. And these are not cottages as 3-storey houses. They are far too high. They impose on the whole site. And I see from all the previous applications that for 3 dwellings, it has been refused. So I suspect the same will happen with this. It'd be really interesting to note that in 1983 and 1992, permission was given for 2 bungalows. I haven't been able to access those plans, but it would be really interesting to see them.
Buried in the archives, I can't get home.
You can't get home
Without a special request for somebody to go right. To
That's a by the by. As it stands, as I say, the Buckingham Society are very opposed to this. It's overdevelopment.
Thank you. Anyone else have a view? John?
I was just in a sense back up actually what the society is saying. I mean, I'd also question whether it's their land, because the excerpt we've got of the land ministry document suggests that some of the land is not actually theirs. So I don't know whether we know for sure whether all the land we want to develop is actually theirs. I know that's academic when it comes to planning, but I think it's a factor. And I think the thing that, as we heard as well, it's really important for there to be level access, not stepped access, because the wordage is there's no man and wheelbarrow.
Wonderful.
Well, man and wheelbarrow can't get them down steps. So and that will get in the way of their plans, I suspect, of their other things they're doing. But I think, yeah, definitely overdevelopment. And drainage is of great concern too. I mean, I would like to see the site developed. It is a bit of an eyesore, but this is not the way to do it.
To be a more sympathetic way.
Yeah.
That's what you're both saying. Anya?
I was going to echo that actually, because the site is an eyesore. It'd be nice to see something happening there, but it would have to be, sympathetic in keeping, as Caroline has said, in, for the Buckingham Society, something in keeping with the cottages as opposed to the newer houses to the north side of it. But as it is, I would echo that, and there's no way I could support that.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll just run through what some of the objections have said. Somebody from Westfields is concerned about subsidence possibilities, land slipping down to the back of the new build. One Bath Lane, they're talking about the access path, the right of way. Also, he raised the ecology report, that the biodiversity net gain report, which was made after the land had been raised. Before that, apparently, it was completely full of wildlife and wild animals, and he talked about badgers and foxes being around. But another one at Salisbury Cottages says it's overdevelopment adjacent to the conservation area. We noted there's no footpath. Sewage capacity, university rear entrance, these have all been raised. We had Patricia tonight, hers includes the historic site, the wildlife, the sewers, which have overflowed into Salisbury Cottages on occasion, so there is a flood risk of this water. And another one who lives in Salisbury Cottages, he says that the lack of sustainable drainage, as the sewers are already overwhelmed on Bath Lane with manhole covers being lifted by volumes of water and then flowing into Mitre Street, which can't handle the water. And he also says the townhouses would not be sympathetic to the small carriage, small cottage character of Bath Lane. And there is open space left between houses further up on Bath Lane Terrace. It's too tall and too dense. So that's basically the objections. Fran?
I'd agree with everything that's already been said. Plus, I would think that any development on that site is going to cause absolute chaos. Any trucks coming in and out with materials, etc. I'm like, it's virtually a single track road, isn't it? I'm like, it's a very, very tight lane. In front of that vacant space is currently one of the few places that you can generally pull in if there's something coming the other way. So if there's car there, that's elongating the length of road that is effectively single carriage road. And yeah, I would oppose it on all those points. And yeah, I'm like, is it 3 2-bedrooms?
Three bedrooms.
Three bedrooms.
Yeah.
So they'd be needing 3 parking
Two
spaces.
semis and one detached.
3 parking spaces for each.
No, two for each. Yeah.
2 for each.
It does meet.
Yeah.
It does meet parking standards, so we haven't got a planning
Should be on the
reason
side.
to refuse that. They're parked. They wouldn't be parked in front of the houses, between the street and houses.
Okay. Yeah.
But certainly everything else we've talked about.
It's very tight. I should imagine on parking down there in residents down there, because nobody has any off-street parking.
Yeah.
And just as I just mentioned about the parking in front of the houses, again, that will spoil the streets, because you won't have a continuation of the road from Victorian cottages.
Yeah.
So, if no one else has got anything to say, I am going to propose that we object to this development on the grounds that we've discussed. And also, we're very concerned that there's no SUDS report, surface drainage report, in it, because everyone who's objected has talked about the flooding. And so I propose that, seconded by Anthony. All those in favour? Thank you. That's everybody except Robin, who's abstaining. Thank you. So Patricia, that'll be sent down to the local planning authority to registering our objections as a town council. So thank you very much for attending tonight.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. We go back into planning application number 1 on your sheet on page 2, which is 39 Bernardine's Way. It is a change of use from 6 High Mow to 7 High Mow rooms in a shared facility and utility storage, because it's gone over 6, it now has become a planning application rather than just a straight hire application. We've seen Catherine's report. The main problem about this, in my mind, is we've got going to have 7 rooms with only 2 allocated parking spaces. Bernardine is not that wide that you can park on the street anywhere around here. There's also another high moat opposite to it. Previous conditions when it was a 6-bedroom one have not yet been met, particularly regarding bins, and the applicant is still talking about having only 6 or 7 bins, when in practice he's going to need 14. Whether they put those. So, would like to start on this. Karen, can we go back to you?
Well, the society's got to the point where we despair every time more HMOs on what was a 4-bedroom house.
Yeah.
It's just becoming an increasing problem, I think, for existing residents. I think the aspect of water and parking and bin storage are all very relevant, and we don't know how, if that is really enough material consideration to reject. It's probably going to be passed through, but we don't approve of so many HMOs in one building.
Right. Tanya.
I don't disagree with that. I would, however, say that it appears like this is licensed for 7 people to live in it at the moment anyway. So what they're doing is turning 1 double bedroom into 2 single bedrooms. In principle, that ought not to increase the number of cars or bin space needed. Although technically the latter might need another one. I also am aware of the fact that there is a need for places for single people to live. Having said that, you know, I wouldn't want to live in it because that must be incredibly crammed in there. And even as it is, you know, I imagine it's incredibly crammed. So on that basis, I'm saying it's not suitable space for it. It doesn't appear to be suitable space for that many people to live in. So I would object on those grounds, whether, you know, as Carolyn says, technically that is enough reason to object, I don't know. But
if I could just point out in Catherine's report, it does meet the government minimum bedroom sizes. And also the sizes for bedrooms of 1 person with their own kitchen facilities. All of the proposed bedrooms have kitchen facilities and all meet the minimum room area standard. Thank you.
Can I just come back and say that HMOs are one thing because they're supposed to be sort of students with not permanent residence, as it were. They have holidays. But these conversions are clearly, whereas there may well be a need, but they are not meeting, in our view, a permanent resident stipulation. I mean, yes, they are all right on spaces, but really the student accommodation is very different. The lifestyle they need and amount of time they might spend there compared to a permanent resident. And that's I think where our objection stems from.
Yeah. I did raise it with Catherine earlier today about the parking, and I think you said there are no parking standards for highways at the moment.
No, they weren't written into the county's parking standards. Whatever.
Yeah.
There is nothing at all about HMOs which do. I mean, if they're not students, they may like we had one up on Osier Way, which was HS2 workers who worked all sorts of different shifts. And the house was on a shared surface street and was housing 6 separate men who all had a car so they could get to the site. Yeah, I mean, the HS2 guys weren't exactly on bus routes. You know, and that caused a lot of fuss, especially on the shared surface street.
yeah.
Joy.
I'm looking at the plans, trying to just get my head around them. I can see what's happened on the 2nd floor. They're proposing, basically one side yard flat, turning it into two flats, I can see how they've done that. But on the other floor that's shown here, there what was a communal lounge is going to become a rather odd-shaped, L-shaped space. That's the extra bedroom there, isn't it, I think?
No, you're misreading it, councillor Harvey. The two bottom floor plans are just attached for interest because they are the ground and first floors that are already approved.
Oh, I see.
One is the before and after.
Oh, right, okay, so I was comparing one to the other, but I see what you mean now, sorry, I understand. Okay.
Anyone else? What is notable is that highways haven't commented on this. There's no report there yet, so. If everyone's had their say, I'm going to propose we object to this on the grounds of parking problem.
And bins.
And, oh yeah, and the bins and raise the fact that the conditions have not yet been met for the previous approval.
Nobody's intending.
Yeah.
People sounding. Thank you anyway.
So, yes, till highways come back to report, we're rather shooting in the dark.
Yeah.
I propose that, seconded by Councillor Roth.
Sorry, I'm just asking
Sorry.
a quick question. I don't know if you can answer it. How does it work with council tax for an HMO? The room with an HMO.
If they're students, they don't pay.
But if they're not students, then the whole house
I have no
needs to be
idea how they work it
occupied by
out, if
students.
it's some
If there's-
students and some
if there's
taxpayers.
one person living there that's not a student, then the whole. If it's a house share,
It's worth a question.
I think council tax then sorry. I believe council tax becomes applicable if there's one non-student living in
is
the house.
it the lowest rate for each room, or is there a charge on the whole house still?
I don't know.
And if there's not council tax on each room and it's on the whole house, would the bins situation be an issue? Because presumably in that case, they wouldn't have 7 individual sets of bins. They would presumably have one larger bin to share between all the rooms.
When the first and ground floor were done, Waste and Recycling said that there should be one bin per unit of each sort.
So
That's one green, one blue and a blue.
that's in the condition for the 2023 approval. John?
I'll check on the basis of bad spelling. They can't spell kitchenette. It's 2 T's.
Oh, if we had that sort of stricture, councillor Harvey, we don't have anywhere.
Thank you. Right, anyone else? We have had a proposal and second, as always in favour that we reject. That's unanimous with the exception of councillor Butterick. Thank you. We move on then to items 2 and 3, which can be considered together. This is Lido Romeo Hairstylist, 12 Bridge Street. This is in the conservation area. It's an external staircase and doorway on the northern side of the building, and the rear of the access flat 1, which is a 2-bedroom flat over the hair salon. We take that one first, shall we? Buckingham Society.
Well, my colleagues had no comment, because I wasn't actually there. I subsequently looked at the plans on the portal. Really, I don't think there's enough information on this. I don't know what this staircase is being built on. I think Catherine mentioned it was metal, but I couldn't see any detailed plans for it. And we are talking something in the conservation area. I was just a little concerned that there really wasn't enough information to put forward either an objection or actually an approval. I mean,
Page 15.
it seems very.
Page 15, there are detailed plans.
There are.
A lot of them, yes.
Okay, well, I was relying on the portal rather than,
Right.
but I didn't have to read the page in total.
They've got elevations.
Oh, yes, I've seen the elevation.
Yeah, they've got the floor plans, they've got new signage, etc., etc. There's quite a lot there,
Yeah,
but
no, there's a lot of the illustrations, but I cannot see a construction plan. And what is this made of? What are the treads?
It's just a metal stack.
The metal staircase, are the treads open, are they closed?
Two-section metal staircase, that's all it says, isn't it?
I would imagine that it's not dissimilar to metal fire escape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a metal fire escape, let's assume it's a metal fire escape. I think it might be a bit of an eyesore personally. I don't. And I think we think the signage is fine.
Right. Anyone else got any comment on this? I mean, it's worth noting that they have tidied up the parking area.
Yes.
Made a big improvement.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind this is one of the entrances to the town, to the old town. So in that case, I propose that we have no objection to this, the staircase, seconded by Anthony. All those in favour? That's. Hang on, just count that. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in favour. Anyone against? Abstention? 2 abstentions, John and Robin, having already declared an interest. Thank you. And the second part of the application is the display of square signage to front and side, replacement of window signage. There is a hanging sign which is plastic, which goes against our conservation area and the heritage area references, which is the wooden signs that are hanging. How do members feel about that? I think you certainly have no problem with it.
I mean, I think it's a good design and it is plastic, not wooden, but it doesn't really impinge on the street scene to be, in our view, worthy of objection.
Frank?
I think once the sign has been painted in such a way, its base material is inconsequential, really, yeah.
Tanya?
I've not looked at the side signage, but I've noted the new window sign, and it is a definite improvement on what was there before. So I think if anything, that probably makes the place look a little less scruffy than it used to. Didn't say that, but yeah.
Anyone else? No, well, in that case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to propose that we have no objection, but because of our conservation area rules, we would prefer to see the hanging sign.
Yeah.
Of wood.
Yeah.
Is that acceptable, Anthony?
Yes, I think so.
So I propose that.
I'll second.
Seconded by Anthony. Then all those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anyone against? Abstentions?
I'm going to abstain because I don't have an issue with it being plastic the way it's designed.
That's fine. Okay, that's 3 abstentions. Thank you. I move on to number 4, which is Bushy Close, MK18. What's the number of Bushy Close? 9 Bushy Close. Householder application for demolition of a conservatory and detached garage and the erection of a single-storey rear side extension to form a granny annex. It's slipped over. Right, this we saw the previous application, which was withdrawn after we made a strong objection about the loss of garden at the back, and they've come back with a new plan which gives much more garden space. It'll be 4 bedroomed. There appears to be sufficient parking for 3 cars. Anyone like to speak on this? No, in that case, I propose no objection. Seconded by Anthony. All those in favour? That's everyone bar Robin. Number 5 is 11 Edberg Street. Householder application for installation of an air source heat pump. Right, now Environmental Health has requested a noise impact report before they will give their approval. I don't know if anyone's had experience of these air heat pumps, if they are noisy.
Okay. There's a couple at Portland Meadow. What? You know, as you come in, there's been a fence gap between the main street building and the little one.
Yeah.
Come in there.
Oh.
But I noticed that we looked at that application last year. Yeah, but I noticed that, but
Actually, in a enclosure, aren't they? Right.
it's in Scotland as well.
My opposite neighbour has got one installed, but for some reason they installed it on the front of his property, which is apparently not the correct way of doing things. And it does actually apparently make quite a lot of noise inside his house. I don't notice it from mine, but it looks to me like they're mounting it on a concrete plinth away from the house, which is what I understand to be the preferred method of doing so. So and the housing associations are retrofitting air source heat pumps to a lot of housing association homes. When they're doing them up, they're taking out gas boilers and putting air source heat pumps in, and have been doing so for at least 10 years.
Wow.
One thing we did wonder is why it required planning permission this, when, as you say, other people have been doing it without.
Yeah. It does seem odd. It might be something in the deeds of the properties on that new barracks estate there, mightn't it?
In the permitted development.
Yeah.
Could be.
I think in principle, these things ought to be encouraged because we're always going on about, renewable energies and increasing the sustainability of houses, and that is what these things do. So on that ground, I feel that, I certainly wouldn't object to it.
I propose we have no objection, but subject to the environmental health officer's satisfaction once he gets a report. Thank you. Seconded by Anthony. All those in favour? Yeah, that's everyone. Right, we move to number 6 is 1 Burley Court, householder application for garage conversion for habitable space. This is one which came to us originally, the CPL. We queried that, so we thought the permitted development rights had been removed, indeed they had. And so the applicant's been forced to come back with a full planning application. We had no objection last time if it was going to be CPL. Is everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
Thank you. No objection. Seconded by Anthony. All those in favour? That's everyone. Robin, thank you. 17 Moreton Road. The household application for a loft conversion with a rear dormer. To provide an additional bed, taking it up to 3 bedrooms, which will only still requested a parking plan, despite the fact there's plenty of room in front of the house. Carolyn, did Buckingham Society have a view?
No, it's really said no comment. I've had a good look at it. I just like to have seen an illustration of the whole terrace, see how the skylights impinge on the street scene. But I think they're very discreet. I mean, we have no objection really. It would have been preferable to have seen the overall picture.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments? In that case, I propose we have no objection to it. Seconded by Anthony. All those in favour? Thank you. Everyone except Robin. Moving up to the top of Bennett Hill, significant reserve matters for the 2 dwellings with garages, car parking and landscaping at Bennett Hill Farm, Buckingham. We already agreed to the outline approval. This is the reserve matters. The one thing that jumps out is they are going to use heat pumps as their main fuel source.
Right.
Which will please someone down the end of the table.
I me.
Yeah, no, I'm happy with that too.
But I have put a note there on when I was going through it, why no solar panels or grey water recycling in the application?
We didn't ask for that, did we?
Well, my view, I think you say that about every single development that we have, but apparently we can't do that, but yes, absolutely. any new properties these days should be built with solar panels and grey water recycling. I mean, we live in the east of England, and we know there's going to be huge problems with water in the future. And anybody with any sense is building that into the properties.
Quote the policy.
Sorry,
I mean, our neighbourhood plan policy is still in vogue.
oh, yeah,
We can just quote the policy and see.
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, and plus it's in the revised plan, which of course is, now gone to regulation 14 consultation, which is aimed to keep the developers at bay at the moment. So, now,
I was just going to say, what jumped out at me was the blue line of land that the applicant owns. And are they going to then get access via these houses down to that plot of land rather than directly off the A43? A413 rather.
Just get past the houses.
Sorry?
Well, down the side that actually butts onto the Lace Hill pitches, there's an easement down there because of the cesspit. So they won't be able to make it a roadway, will they?
Well, anyway, just sort of put that in and I hope it's not all. Okay.
that's pretty right, in that case, having seen the application, heard everything, I propose we have no objection to this, but we can query
Yeah.
why there are no solar panels or grey water recycling and quote the relevant Buckingham Neighbourhood Plan policy regarding any new build property
Yeah.
within the parish. That can look that up. So I propose that, seconded by Anthony. All those in favour? Everyone except Robin. Okay. I mean, got to go along soon. Number 9 is 29 Meadway. This is a householder application for the erection of a rear conservatory. It's a bungalow and it's going to stay a bungalow, which is good. Buckingham Society.
This is such a nice application, and a lovely property. Yeah, I have no use at all.
And I believe, Catherine, you said there's another one.
There's another one coming up in Meadow Gardens, the next agenda.
Right.
But it's already had a side extension. It's going to have a front extension and 2 different rear extensions if we let that one go through. But it is the corner plot right at the end of Meadow Gardens. There's a sort of limb of Meadow Gardens that goes towards the bypass, and it's the end one.
So that's not this application.
No,
Okay.
No.
Let's not prejudge.
Yeah, exactly.
Thoughtfully, I can use the same picture.
Yeah, that's what we're saying. It's going to be quite useful. But anyway, so I propose no objection to that. Anthony seconded it. All those in favour? Robin, thank you. Then we move up to Moreton Road, Manor Farm in Moreton Road. Household application for erection of carport and garden store. All seen Catherine's notes on this. I know that Roger played a part in this at one point. So,
That was when it was a nursery.
yeah. Karen, any thoughts?
No, we have no comment.
You're all happy?
Yeah.
Everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
I propose no objection, seconded by Anthony, all those in favour? Thank you, everyone. We've already done one Bath Lane, and the final one we're considering tonight is land at Tindrick Road. This is the main entrance, this is Bumbold's Fields. Councillor Draper kindly picked this up. She noticed the problems about turning out of the estate onto the 40-mile-an-hour Tindrick Road. It's something that somehow got missed. Because one of the original applications had these site signs actually at the end of the entrance road where the houses start. That then disappeared from the plans. You've probably seen Catherine's gone to a great deal of trouble to go back through past drawings.
Yeah.
2017, it was shown as being at that point, the point it is now. And the agent has claimed that we understand the wall entrance sign has been in place for over 4 years and therefore is lawful by virtue of being immune from enforcement action. Quoting the relevant number, but our view may well be that that only applies to extensions, etc., etc.
Well, because the highway is an element to this, I think that might be where, I mean, if you've got an extension and it's been there 4 years, yes. You keep it, it's as little spot as right.
concern.
But this worries me because it's been put up. It wasn't until we had a councillor who actually lived on the estate who noticed that it was actually quite difficult to see which way, because that way you've got the roundabout and people coming steaming off the roundabout, not necessarily at 40 miles.
Yes.
And the other way is just the crest of the hill, so that stuff is popping over the crest without sort of much of a notice.
Yeah.
And I don't think it can have been there for 4 years because you do not put decorative planting and a sign when you've still got big trucks trundling back and forth building stuff. It's, you do the landscaping later, don't you?
You do, and it didn't really strike me as a feature of the entrance to the estate until about a year ago. And maybe that's just me being blind, probably it wasn't.
Well, it has been there longer according to Google, but
Yeah. I think the main problem is the speed of the road. You know,
Always has been.
If we could get it down to 20 miles an hour, it wouldn't be a problem.
That's 13.
Wishful thinking. 30 would be
So
nice.
you're suggesting a trade-off, Karen, they can keep the sign, but the road, Tindrick Road must be 20 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So, Fran,
Visibility either way from that junction is a nightmare. Anya and I were with Lucy the other day when we were doing the judging for the thing, and you do actually have to creep out quite far because the hedgerow on that side is
Also high, yeah.
is in the visibility display, and then yeah, I'm like, I've not personally noticed an issue so much with that sign, but certainly the other way, and the visibility displays coming out of there are not what they should be.
there, John.
Well, of course, there's soon going to be another entrance to this estate. isn't
It's
there?
open.
Is it open?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
3
that's
months?
open.
Oh, okay, I didn't notice that. And I don't like these sort of signs anyway, to be honest. It's like something other back to the future. I think it's a bit silly. But,
Set of boards.
yeah, that too. I love it. The 4-year thing, I don't know. Surely there must be some way you could do that one way or the other. Well,
I thought very probably the agent could have asked his client. I mean,
But he doesn't want to do that, does he?
no, he doesn't want to do that because I suspect he knows it. I mean, they're employed. Why can't they just ask? I have to say, I do not go out there that often unless I'm actually wanted
I've never driven
to.
there.
It's a trek on a bike.
And there's no highways report at the moment.
No,
That's correct, right? So,
yes, we do need to see what highways think of this
Yeah.
because they haven't been asked yet.
Yeah.
Because the sign wasn't on the drawings that they saw.
John,
Yeah, I'd suggest that we register no objections unless Highways thinks it should be brought down. Because I mean, I hear what obviously, Lucy says. But the arbiters of that will be Highways anyway, as to whether the display and visibility is adequate or not.
well, we can,
I would suggest that we register no objections,
We-
subject to approval by Highways.
You can defer comment
Yeah.
if you'd rather.
that's what I'm going to suggest, yeah.
Yeah.
If you're happy with that, that's what I'll do, then I propose that we defer comment until we've heard from highways.
Yeah.
So, Fran,
Can we amend it to look at the visibility space on both sides of that junction?
well, that's
with
not
the-
what's on the application, we have to deal with the
Yeah.
application before us,
Okay.
but we can we can mention that,
Yeah,
it's restricted.
yeah, it's restricted
In both-
vision both ways,
yeah.
and with it being a 40-mile-an-hour road, which
Yeah, that's a very good point, yeah.
often people don't stick to. There's a large number of instances of speeding down there. It does make it very difficult for children trying to cross the road at that point as well.
Yeah.
So we'll include that if everyone's happy.
Could we word it such that we make an assumption that there is a lack of vision, assume it is, and look forward to hearing Highways comments on our thoughts? Do you see what I mean? I'm leading them a little bit, yes?
Not quite with you.
Oh.
You say
We're gonna be asking Highways to comment. But if we turn it round slightly and say, we consider there's restricted vision and we'll wait to see what
Yes,
Highways
if I
comments.
put that members decided to defer comment pending the arrival of the report from Highways.
Yeah,
So that covers it.
On the adequacy of the
yes.
Yeah.
visibility displays.
Yeah.
Is that acceptable to everyone?
Yeah.
That's what I propose then. You second, Anthony, all those in favour? Anya's absent from the meeting at the moment, so thank you.
I'm abstaining.
You're abstaining, yeah, we got that, Robin, thank you very much. Robin, did you want to comment on that now we've done that?
As read, there's two entrances there. The estate is being built out. I'll probably comment a bit more perhaps later on in more detail perhaps around that to do with it. But it's like everything when something was assumed and first looked at these things, I doubt very much the signing of the entrance to or the visual displays would have been considered at the original application, and it's to see whether it was in the what was in the original application when it came to the entrance what was there, because members will remember we discussed some years back about the suds and everything which are in the entrance.
That's what, Robin, that was the original drawing.
And I
The things that
don't recall it being in those drawings.
there was never any definition of what these features were going to be.
No,
And it said, check with the landscape drawings, which I have. I've checked with all the versions of landscape drawings that are available on the website, and it never reappeared there or anywhere else.
I don't believe at any point that any conversation we ever had that this ever came up.
I think we were assuming that it would be some sort of art. You know.
Yeah. But you know, you commented on the application and
Never saw anything else.
Thank you, Anya.
it could be something that we need to take up with the or you need or somebody needs to take up with the actual what their aspirations are with it, because I don't suppose the residents have really cottoned on to that because they're probably still worried about their management charges at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well, silly for us to assume that it would be safe getting out of an estate.
Yeah.
This is what
Silly
we're
of us.
I mean, I'll go and look at it again. Maybe do something thereafter.
Thank you. Anyway, we've agreed that, and obviously to press it's the 40-mile-an-hour road that they're changing to. Right, planning sorry, the one that Catherine's left on the agenda is 22 Pearl Close, which was a certificate of lawfulness proposal of conversion of roof lights. It was validated on the 2nd of July. We on the 4th of July. But the reason Catherine's put it in here is the reasoning for approving the lights. Catherine, you might like to just enlarge on that for a minute.
Well, it seems that a skylight isn't a window. When you write in your conditions that no windows shall be added and no development take place of the building without permission, that doesn't actually mean anything very much in this one, where they are skylights, they are not windows. And the messing about with the internal structures is development, even if you are actually making loft room habitable. That's not development of the premises. It's an interpretation that I have not come across before, but it seems reasonable. But it means that the next time we get a CPO that wants to do a loft conversion, they've got skylights, then we don't need to bother with it.
Yeah.
Because it's all a done deal. Especially on Lace Hill, where I have to say the conditions are somewhat loose.
It does hinge on parking, doesn't it?
Mm.
Surely it's part of it.
Well, if you've got teenage children and they've got to have separate bedrooms, it's not a rental, it's not an HMO.
Well,
It's just that we've got more children, we've got rooms to get and then grow up.
Thank you.
That's
So that's the report. So we can move on to committee planning decisions. Well, the ones we have no objections to was we weren't happy about the White Hart Hotel external works in the rear garden because of the possible noise and festoon lighting which could affect the flats. Report, but it has been approved, although the planning included changes to pergola structures and materials and conditions specified. The new accessible toilet must match existing drawing materials. The festoon lighting is approved and garden use restricted 11 in the morning. 11. Right. And then over the page, refused, Bridge Street Barber, pretty spacious signs and 4 window signs, which will retrospectively apply for being refused. They have removed the barber's pole. But we're not
Well,
quite.
they did that right back when we first made a response,
Yeah.
you know, they did it very promptly. So as this used to be Taylor's estate agents and their windows were full of A4 sheets with broad red bands put on top. I
Yeah.
can see what they.
We all agreed it was far better. Did you read the officer's report, Mark? I'm afraid I haven't. Did you read it?
No,
No.
I haven't read
And I'm
that.
really interested to see the reasons that I'll try and read them. I haven't had time.
There's sometimes we're left a little bit amused by these things. 36 Chandler Road, the HIMOs we opposed, and that's been refused. Everything else was okay. 82 Planning Inspectorate, Stoneleigh House in Castle Street. They've won their appeal. They can sell it now as a private house.
Ridiculous objection.
Planning inspector was quite clear that we didn't want to see this building fall into disrepair. Needed to be saved. I mean, it's one of the asset buildings, historic asset buildings of the town. Isn't it?
I'm not moving in, it's okay, just in case anyone was concerned.
Item 9, Buckinghamshire Council matters. To receive news of Buckinghamshire Council, new documents and other information from Buckinghamshire Council members present. Any new documents, Steve?
I don't recall any that's on the list of us to look at today. And there was the local consultation.
I was just
Robin, have you got it?
yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
I have been in extensive conversations with officers of the library consultation since it was first routed at Cabinet. My discussions on it took place during the meeting by email and thereafter, to which I met the officers, and I think we fair to say I wasn't satisfied with my response. Immediate response after my meeting, I then wrote to them, and of course there was something that's called an election taking place, and I think the response was delayed. So I then put a question which is going to Cabinet tomorrow to bring and try to ease out of the Cabinet member their logic for the process and their understanding of the impact assessments, which are quite grim when you read the report. In fact, they are quite damning, I would say, and very concerning. The day before that, I'd been to the overview and scrutiny of the Fire Authority meeting where we discussed the firefighters' FBU manifesto, which might be worth you reading. About is that there's usually a lot of firefighters who don't have longevity after finishing the service because of the contaminants, and it's about making sure that their working practices are improved and they get to draw their pensions. And after Cabinet tomorrow, I should be attending the development meeting after to tell you which one it is. I'm going to so many meetings this week, it's unbelievable. Yeah, I will be attending after cabinet the infrastructure and housing select committee, which I've got a question going in to that. The next morning I'll be attending the Buckinghamshire Fire Authority Audit Committee and Council. There's a motion on the council which people might be interested in about the amount of recycled waste which is being transported overseas. Just to see how that's discussed. You will know the parking study is on the agenda tomorrow. I think the consultation, which I think has been cited well on Facebook, is that despite the five of the 6 Buckinghamshire councillors represented in the present system, Buckingham commented negatively against it, and the public majority commenting negatively against it, and that appears not to be quite enough information to curtail the. It was quite nice that they managed to include all my grammar and spelling mistakes within the portal, which I'm going to discuss whether it breached the Disability Act, and would probably quite a breach of it, I would imagine. But I'm sure people have much fun reading that. But I think, you know, the whole thing is I'm very concerned about that. And there's also, you will be aware that there is a housing consultation on the Buckinghamshire choice allocation. Please read it, and please read it with a mind to how it used to be. I'm willing to provide you with the information about the Buckinghamshire choice sub-allocation policy, which those who were present will remember that we as a council are quite keen on sub-allocation policies because it meant that 50% of new lets, new builds and new lets went to local people, and 25% of re-lets went to local people, which meant we kept our community together. And it meant that that is going to be diminished. And they're going for a one-size-fits-all Buckinghamshire policy. With apparently nobody took it up much. Well, that isn't the point. That those families who did take it up probably now are going to school and whatever. And I didn't think they advertised it very greatly. It's the Buckinghamshire Council took over, to be fair. And so that's quite negative because we will receive chunks of development. And even if we don't have them in the Buckingham Neighbourhood Plan, which everyone's working on, we will have them anyway. So it could be that our affordable accommodation will house the places who have got a green belt, who don't want to have any affordable accommodation. So we will have to, through the way they're doing the calculation, they will qualify to come here where there's no doctors' surgeries, no transport, no links and no support mechanism to assist them in having a decent standard of life, which is not in the report. And also it will be negative to local people. And I think to correct it, in the previous local plan, which came in 2015, in 2014, we were well aware of this policy because it had gone through council, had something to do with it apparently. And it went through council, was adopted. Now this is quite a negative. I'm not sure whether, based upon the consultation on transport and everything, whether they'll listen to local concerns. At the end of this week, there's a meeting of the localism committee, communities and localism. On the agenda, which members might find interesting, is the update on the parish charter, which I think everybody here has discussed how well that's working. And we've expressed our views several times about it, but apparently the members are going to discuss how that's working. I expect there may be several views on that, because when the parish charter was put in, it was supposed to take from notice of planning and such and such and so and so. Well, the parish charter should take notice of local views, and it's been expressed. The local view of this parish through the consultation has been it doesn't want parking charges changed. I think that's reasonable to, in their own evidence that they have produced in their consultation, which I think thanks to Buckingham what matters. It's been up there for people see, and I've seen that, I understand until corrected correctly, that you cannot have a consultation or a petition while a consultation is going on. I believe that to be correct. So I believe some gentleman here has gone round and avoided that by having his own petition on local matters. And funny enough, most people filling that in what I could see were against it. So I don't know where we go with that, apart from the fact that if 5 of your local councils say no to something, one of their do say yes, it appears that we're not listening to. So that might be something you want to bear in mind in the future with the local council, because it's all down to the constitution being so democratically weak, in the sense that the constitution, which I play around with now and again, you can only have one written question to one thing. You can only do one thing, so you can only have 3 minutes. Anyone turning up for anything who speaks more than 3 minutes, they're punished by a buzzer or being interrupted or whatever. I do remember Buckinghamshire Council being a little bit more liberal in its approach to questions, and I do remember the district council at least allowing people to finish saying what they were going to say. So I think there's a lot of work to be done on that, and hopefully if the projection of the direction of travel is, maybe it will get changed in the future. So I think it's important that this council residents and concerns are listened to, and they're clearly not being. And I think the evidence is out there now to say that one size fits all is the mantra of Buckinghamshire. So if you're a size 34, you'll get given a size 40 trousers if the gentleman himself Bucks wears 40 trousers. So I think it's just negative. I'm sorry about the length of that, but there is a lot going on, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
You have any questions, John?
Well, I think just to note that tomorrow the cabinet are also making a decision on planning, parking,
Yeah, Robin did mention that.
I think need to kind of keep an eye on that. I think what Robin didn't mention, I don't think, was that all of the local Shire councillors submitted statements in opposition to those changes. The one who didn't was Councillor Cornell. She did not write anything regarding this. And I think it's worth noting.
Wasn't the thing that interested us.
Obviously did not interest us sufficiently to write anything.
Right.
Yeah, just on the thing, the housing consultation that's going on with Buckinghamshire at the moment. It's so they've got several proposals on it. One of which Robin did say about so it's basically getting rid of the 4 what used to be the 4 different districts and making it to a whole of Bucks approach on it, which doesn't allow for local people being able to stay in their local areas and communities. The other thing that I find really concerning on it is that they are proposing to reduce or increase, the length of time that you've got to have a connection with the local area, and they want to increase it from 2 years to 5 years. And I believe that in doing that, it is a swathe, just cutting numbers off the housing register. It's making it more difficult for people to actually be able to qualify to go on that housing register in the first place. What they should be doing, in my personal view, is doing what was agreed, I believe, by Buckinghamshire Council, which is to become a local authority housing provider again, and start building houses rather than relying on new estates being built and having a proportion of social housing or affordable housing in it. The local authorities need to start building houses again, so that we get rid of this backlog in a proper way, rather than artificially reducing it by making the criteria to get on that register so much harder.
Thank you very
And
much.
I can't have my soapbox.
There are,
That was a question, wasn't it, to Robin?
yeah, there is some issues around it, which I think we need to carefully consider. One is that there's the service charter, which is for servicemen who leave employment. I'm not sure the Deers have actually considered that this is contrary to the charter. Of servicemen who may not live in the area because they've been away serving the country, but may come back to where they originally reside to actually settle. Also, it might be worth finding a 5-year-old child whose disability rights have been interrupted with, because the Equalities Act is quite specific about defined needs and characteristics, and I'm not sure, looking at that, whether it's actually met that need, because everyone could be disabled in one way or form in their life, and everyone could be disabled. And I'm not sure whether the policies in that respect what is good practice and law. I'm not a lawyer, of course, but I always like to think of the others. I just think the whole process, as Councillor Davis has described it, you extend the period of time to reduce your list, and then say that you've got a reduced list. But you remember that they did their housing policy, didn't include in the housing policy in 20.
Right, can we move on to item 10, updates from representatives on outside bodies? None, thank you. Item 11, action reports. Did quite a full list of those, but none of them have been dealt with on the agenda tonight. Has anyone got any comments on them, Fran?
Just to say that what we were discussing before with the visibility displays coming out of St Rumbold's Field, on the original, let me find it again. Councillor Jacob reported potentially dangerous lack of visibility when exiting the St Rumbold's Field estate. Planning Park will investigate. So that's not specifically about the sign.
Right, Catherine, answer this. Page 44.
Ah, mine isn't numbered, so it's mine isn't.
Okay. 1 minute. Let's keep that one there.
Councillor Draper reported this to me in the office. I don't think she did it in a meeting, except when he was summing up afterwards. And it was sent over as a report to planning, specifically for enforcement, because the version of the drawing that was on the decision sheet did not have any such sign on it. In fact, none of them had since the initial stuff we've been doing, so many revisions, they're up to G or H by now. So the case officer, the actual planning officer, went, "Oh, I hadn't noticed," and so she got on to the builders, and the application is what has resulted.
Hmm.
So that's what we got with tonight.
Councillor Draper seems satisfied with the result.
Thank you, John.
Just a couple of the items, I know we're working it page by page, but I'm looking at the yellow, no parking lines on Delaware Close. I'm not entirely sure what the response actually means. Does it mean they're actually going to make them put down the property values?
In theory, that is what should happen, yes.
Okay. All right. Because they look really weird at the moment.
Yes.
Like a hybrid or something. And I was saying with regards to standing water on the skate park, my impression is if it's raining, there is such water, but it does tend to drain off and dry out. I don't think it's a major problem in such cases.
Well, every time it rained, it was at a weekend when I'm not even in town much, so I'm waiting for a thorough downpour when I'm in the office and enough knee motion to get round there.
The next 2 days are going to get that.
Well, yeah, if it's not raining when I leave, I'll go that way.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not been actioned yet because we haven't had a decent rainfall
Lisa,
on a day when it was
Thank you.
available.
Because wasn't that the hold up, the Environment Agency, we're gonna check the flooding? I thought that was what the hold up was for actually refurbing it.
Yeah, well,
I think that this is like standing water on what's been built, isn't it?
Yeah.
yeah, it's the new stuff not draining properly. I
Right,
mean, I never saw the Environment Agency problem because it was replacing an existing escape.
yeah,
So there was no increase or decrease
yeah,
in the plant surfacing.
yeah.
so any other points on the action list? I think we could take note of those things, thank you. And to receive action reports as per the attached list, appendix B. Moreton Road Cycleway section 106 money response from the transport officer. You got that in appendix C. Robin?
Yeah, thank you for that. I must confess, I haven't had time to read and whether it's fully published yet, section 106 agreement for the phase 3. I think that's something that Catherine was so brilliant when we did it wasn't for Catherine, when we had the development of the Tindrick Road, it said in that section 106 agreement, contributions to education in Buckinghamshire. So if Catherine hadn't spotted it in there, we would have had no contribution to our local school, and we would have probably done something in Cheltenham and St Giles, would have gained from our development. So I'm not sure where that's
No, I mean, this is pretty good. This arose from the Zoom meeting I had with Mr. Owens on Friday morning. And I said, look, we've had this thing hanging around for ages. Somebody must know something. And this has been prodded, and an officer has been prodded personally by Mr. Owens and told it to me on send it. So
on the phase 3, Chairman, we asked, or I asked, and I was included, and I want to make sure it's still in there, that when the section 106 agreement was drafted, instead of like Lace here and which was difficult, Tindrick Road, which was hard, it was to be drafted into the section 106 agreement, but the land will be offered to Buckingham Town Council.
yes.
Thank you. The Buckingham Town Council to have the first option on it rather than us ask. So we get the land which allows.
It's not long since that I actually did it was in there.
No, I mean,
need to know it was in there.
Because that's a big change, because we know that those playing fields are needed in that community. So that sometime, probably in the next council, that'll be a big conversation. Yep. Then it'll go on for about 10 more years.
Yeah.
And,
Thank you, Robin. John?
Yeah, I'm looking at the report.
Yeah.
And it says that on the Moreton Road Phase I, the footway along the Moreton Road between Bradford Avenue and Whitehead Way was provided by the section 106 on the Moreton Road Phase I. That's not true.
No, it was
Because it
actually
came
provided
from-
at section 2, wasn't it?
Yeah, we had,
But because
that
we
wasn't put in place, the money for that.
we were
actually came
banging
from-
on forever about people having to walk in the Moreton Road, which is not
Yeah.
a safe road, with prams or,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
shopping trolleys and things.
Yeah.
But it was in, he is correct in saying that it was in the section 106, but never implemented. Implemented until we made a fuss and they put it in the phase 2.
Yeah.
Safe phase.
Exactly.
Thank you, well spotted, John.
Similarly, the path to the playground that was only within the
Yeah.
site boundary of phase 2, but was actually provided for in phase 1, section 106.
Yeah.
And they sort of stood around saying, well, what did you mean you needed a footpath for the children to get?
Can't we just hold that?
You'll note that phase 3, it says, they're still rattling on about the cycleway going down the old chair. We'll be really interested to see how they do that when it comes. We'll also note it says the council will of course engage with local ward members and the town council as part of that development. So thank you. Anything else on that one? Can we move on then to the section 106 funding of skate park, which is D, John?
Well, I note there's 50,000 plus that is currently unspent. And one of the things that I think is missing from the new skate park is a place for young people to I don't know, hang out. I mean, there is the remaining shelter there, albeit not a very comfortable system. And I would suggest that money is spent on making the skate park a bit similar to what we had before and provide a covered place of a suitable design, perhaps involving young people in saying what it is they would like.
Yes.
And put that in place. I'm not sure where it would fit. It could probably go.
Well, at the bridge, end, there's a large amount of unused ground.
Exactly. That's where it was before. So I have a question whether they had to remove the one that was there before.
Well, when they were knocking stuff down, I actually went to Joe Houston and said, are you proposing to put that on one side and re-erect it? Or are you going to provide a new one? And he said that they weren't going to provide anything at all because the police didn't want one.
Yeah, you see, this whole thing, we can't have young people, hanging out and talking with each other because that's terrible. Young people do that. That's what young people want to do, and I think they have a right to be able to do that. And put a bin next to it, and that's part of the 50 grand, whatever. And well, fine, but they're not going to hang out there. They're going to hang out somewhere else. It's like when they're hanging out. I mean, it's it just.
You know where they are.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm sorry, but these are connected to a bloody mass speed limit down the Tinswick Road, so I don't have an awful lot of confidence about police thinking about the community.
Lisa,
yes.
Thank you. So this was going back to the Buckingham Neighbourhood, the bag group that we used to have for people that were working with young people at the time, and the police said that they wanted to be able to visually see any young people that are in a shelter, so it shouldn't have any sides and just have the roof, and that was so that they didn't have to get out of their car. They could just see them from the top of the hill. And we said from then, going back a long time, that's not what a shelter should be. It should be for them to be able to shelter from the rain, which blows in different directions. It doesn't come in from one direction. And I believe that the police took it back and said that they would be okay with one that had sides. So I don't know why you now got the message.
Something that's not dissimilar to the bus shelter, that would be that.
Yeah, because I don't understand where that message has come from.
But not rocket science.
No.
could we just ask Catherine, we got this 52,000 outstanding. Is this something we can?
Well, I don't see why we shouldn't write a letter.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, can this go on the next message?
And adding see-through sides, because again, that was something that we discussed.
That's why I said like the bus shelter. You
Yeah.
can see that from the side.
Yeah.
We can't, sorry,
Yeah, so we can't make any agreement tonight.
No.
we can put it on the next agenda to discuss how we'd like to see this used. Is that?
Could Catherine not write to them in the meantime?
Probably the best thing is to write and say, what are the plans?
Yeah,
Unless
What's the deadline to using it?
because otherwise we're waiting 4-6 weeks till next meeting.
Yeah,
Sorry, Robin's very.
there is an obvious here, isn't there? I did point out to the police officer who said that we couldn't have a 30-mile limit. Well, it's funny because you're the only one here who isn't elected. I said everyone who was elected here wanted a 30-mile limit, and now it appears that a person who isn't elected hasn't actually gone and asked the public to speak on their behalf, is now making rules around development.
Yeah.
So what we need to do is write to them and ask them if they'd object to the parking charges, because clearly they've got more weight than anybody else, and whether they object to the consultation on parking charges. And clearly we need to write to them and say, would they object to the consultation on housing? Because clearly the unelected are listened to and the elected aren't. And there's a real question here around the parish charter. We were not, as a parish, consulted about this proposal from the police to do an application. We have seen no correspondence, Chairman. We've got which I'm sure is the truth, that the police were against it, but there's no evidence base that we can make that why they were against it.
Yeah.
It could have been because they've got a reason to be against it, which we couldn't argue against. But we can't have decisions made which aren't open. We can't have just private meetings which decide something and spoke to an individual. So I would suggest that when we have it on the agenda, one of the questions, and I think Clark's right, we have to agenda it, is one of the questions we might pose is to write to them and ask them, can we have the evidence of the decision? Can we have who it was took the decision, when the meeting was taken, who was present, and on what evidence they took that decision? Because I think evidence-based decision making is key. And it could be when we've seen all that there's nothing that we could reasonably argue against. Just being told the police are against it
Very wrong.
doesn't seem very right. And we shouldn't criticise the police.
Oh, there is, you can't make that proposal now, so Catherine can write.
Proposal that we ask those questions.
Yeah.
Because that will inform our decision. And we should inform our decision to be based on facts. And it could be that they cancel out our concerns. Well, I'm sure the police aren't and whatever, but then we could write to them again and ask them to respond to all the consultations on our behalf. Because they clearly have a lot of influence.
So we have a second for that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lisa. John, you were waiting.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't see a reason why we can't write a letter now to the person, the appropriate person in the Shire Council about how this money might be spent. And here are some ideas that have come forward from a meeting in Town Council. I can't see that we need to put that on the agenda for today's
We've just agreed that Catherine's going to do that.
That's what we're going already doing.
Yeah, the second point I meant about the police is just remember, I've just written it down again, that if you're driving from the Finley roundabout, you go to a 50, 70, 50, 60, 40, 60, 40 set of speed limits before you get to the Tesco roundabout.
Yeah.
That's what happens in that 4 miles, 5 mile stretch. So
we're discussing a skate park at the moment.
I know, sorry.
It's been proposed, it's been seconded that Catherine will write to the appropriate officer asking about this funding and with Robin's.
What evidence?
About what we want evidence and evidence-based. Evidence on the decision. Yeah, Fran, before we go.
I'm voting.
That's unanimous.
Let's move on.
Thank you for.
I'll only start again, Fran.
That's why I was voting.
Over the page, Buckinghamshire Council committee meetings, 3 of them were cancelled, obviously prepared on during the election. North Bucks area strategic sites, growth infrastructure and housing is tomorrow, as you've heard from Robin. And transport, environment and climate change select committee was held on the 6th of June.
But there was nothing relevant.
Nothing relevant to us, thank you. Enforcement to report any new breaches.
Just on committee meetings, you will be aware, because I believe the Town Council, to correct me, Chairman, was in favour of the Welsh Street proposals, and I believe the committee were in favour. And then there was a decision process to go through. I believe that that's now been published, a decision process around the Wells Street Sixth Form Centre, which looks like once that decision's gone through, every likelihood that all the legal processes of that becoming a sixth form centre for SEND.
They were hoping for that to open September.
Yes, I think that it looked like it would meet that demand.
Don't do some work.
I know, but they still, you're absolutely right, Fran, but the fact is they still have to tick all these legal things over and above the planning and whatever. Obviously, no one took action against the start of the work before they got agreement, but
Sorry, Roy, what's this fitting into?
well, it's just you said about action committees, it was decisions discussed and it was in the planning committee. It's just that if members like to look, you'll see that it's published, I believe now, so, and I think we were all quite keen on it anyway, so.
Yeah, no, our only concern was a construction management plan, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was all, thank you. So that's, we move on to item 13, enforcement, any new breaches, anyone? Fran?
The latest nail bar on West
Yeah.
Street,
We've already reported.
illuminated sign.
Yeah, it's 13.
And the other one is, and I don't know what the number it is, it's London Road. They've put a new roof on a house on the school side of London Road, and it's no chimneys anymore. And it's one of those 1930s.
I've noticed that.
Right, so they've removed chimneys without planning permission.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if there was any planning permission.
There was definitely there before.
Yeah.
Yeah. The nail bar at 31 West Street, which is a listed building, has been reported with photographs already, and it's been acknowledged, hasn't it?
Yes, we've got a case number and everything,
Yeah.
so.
Robin?
Just to let you know, I haven't been in the nail bar, in case anyone was concerned. I've found no need to use a nail bar. But what I was going to say was, it might be a weird way around it, but the visual displays in the town seem to be less than a priority in the mowing of the grass. Now, there's a huge difference.
Think. Polished.
It appears that they have been somewhat abandoned. Is it something that we could ask from enforcement to look at their policy, whether their actions within a built-up area meet their obligations within their own policies to mow the visual displays, and they're treating it as a country area and an urban area, and ask them whether they're sure they're enforcing their cutting policy round the entrance of the estates as they would envisage they do it. I don't think they are. I think they're acting contrary to that because they had a policy for the countryside and a policy for the towns, and I think we've been put in to the country policy, and it might be a punishment, of course. But it's not very successful.
It's been treated as an enforcement matter.
I'm not sure that's a planning matter.
I know, that's what I was wondering, yeah. Could let's leave answer that and then come back to you.
Yeah, I'm not sure that that's a planning matter. I mean, there's no reason why someone can't raise it in another avenue, or even directly, but.
Well, it affects building houses if you can't see to get in. When you can't see to get out.
Fran, your chair environment.
Well, I was going to come back from a slightly different point of view. The fact that I'm on quite a few different Facebook groups from different parts of the county, and everybody's got the same issues. It's not just us.
It's not being punished.
It's county-wide. It's
One size fits all.
They just haven't got the kit or the funding or the manpower to do it.
They're doing one side, not the other side. We've spoken about it. It's ridiculous. It's not doing them any favours monetary wise if they're there anyway. Cross
So
the
Robin,
road.
could you raise that with environment? It's not a planning matter.
I think that
Steve says.
I'm sure that Chair of Environment will.
I think it just needs everybody to keep reporting it. Fix my street. I think
so.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, I agree.
The big problem is when I questioned our estate manager Lee about mowing, he said when the town council was doing it, it was 6 to 8 mows a year.
Yeah.
It's now two
Two,
roads according, officially according to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, that's
So-
gone down from,
Six.
when they first, I'm fairly sure it was 3 or 4 that they were saying when, they first mooted, I was going to say dissolved services, it's not dissolved, it's well, we're gorgeous, isn't it?
You're right, the first one.
It rained, went away.
If we could move on, that still reminds us. Rolling list 16, pre-planning application, plan ground reports, calling requests, IMO licenses, no changes from May meetings apart from calling requests. Thank you for that work, Catherine.
Yeah,
Can we take those orders noted on block?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Street naming, Osier Way Phase I, Gorkett with Lemborough Parish. We were not obviously consulted about that, that was an early error.
I like their names.
Appendix I.
Yeah,
Welsh Lane,
Birch,
Rowan.
Road.
Yeah.
Rosefield, Redwood Green. Redwood isn't a native tree, though, is it? No. Juniper end, and that's from Bedford, yeah.
Thank you for that, Catherine. That's just for noting. John?
Well, I think Redwood is a native tree.
Is it?
I think it's.
Okay.
And we have some of the tallest redwoods in.
We've got more than they have.
They're natives, yes, yeah.
That's right, good one to try.
Yeah.
Can't follow what's going on.
But also,
John,
my
thank you.
question is, my comment is, given that the decisions that Gorkott have made on this, when the rest of this is built, are we going to be having to follow the same route? In other words, will it make sense that it's going to be
We've
through?
done trees quite comprehensively down on Badgers already.
I know, there's lime and willow and
Yeah.
everything else, I know. That's,
I mean, there's 3 phases to go yet. One of which probably won't need a street name because it'll be the access from Gorkott Road joining in with the Spire Road. So we could have, perhaps 10 on both phases. It's going to be difficult finding enough native trees that we haven't used already and aren't used elsewhere in a county full of trees. Because they do have tree roads elsewhere.
Yeah.
So we might have to go for something linked. I mean, one of the things that was suggested when we thought we were doing that were herbs and spices.
Yeah.
You see, herbs are plants. We haven't done herbs anywhere in town, so we can do that.
well, Osier does mean willow, of course, is the thing.
Yes.
So,
But even then, there's only half a distance.
Robin?
I mean, we'll obviously discuss that, but I mean, one of the things which will be demised up there when they've finished is the dormice, so we should perhaps keep that in mind to remind people we once had dormice in Buckingham and find some way of naming it, because they were gone once the pets have found them. They're not very aggressive animals, they tend to sleep quite a lot and they make a nice portion dinner, don't they? So I bet they'll be eaten by the collection of cats without bowels. So you know, so I think dormice, we should be mentioning them somewhere. So at least people in Buckingham know in 100 years' time that we once had dormice.
That's not what's before us tonight, it's just a matter to report that that's the names that are being given. Thank you. And Moreton Road Phase III, which we weren't allowed to submit, and you'll see the names selected as on the map: Dartmoor, Swaledale, Herdwick, Wensleydale, Shetland and Lincoln. Cheviot was rejected as it's already in the unitary area. The names have been agreed by Royal Mail and are now subject to public consultation. Karen.
I just know that, yes, Cheviot was rejected because it's already been used. I was astonished that some of those tree names weren't rejected for the same reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just a
They
very
have the
odd
same process.
observation.
And
Yeah,
they've got past Royal Mail and the public consultation as well, so.
exactly.
So,
There's lots more trees.
again, that's a matter for report. 16, item 16, matters to report, any damage, superfluous, redundant signage in the town access issues or other urgent matters. Karen.
I think I saw a completely damaged sign on the roundabout at the bottom of Page Hill.
Right,
and I thought you might have noticed that.
Catherine and I came down it tonight, noticed it.
I wasn't looking at the signage on the roundabout, but as we have sponsored them, I think Lee will have a look tomorrow. So.
Well, we
Thank you
can
for
see it when we go back, can't we? So-
Yes, but Lee needs to know which one and.
I think it was one facing Page Hill Avenue. I was going round to the right and just out of my driver's
We'll
side.
go back that way tonight, so we'll have a bit.
Yeah.
John?
So,
I'm often travelling to the cafe at Manor Farm these days, usually on Tuesdays. And then when we come back with a small person in a pushchair, it's very, very hard to cross the bypass at that point.
Yeah.
Because the hedge is so overgrown that you can't see oncoming cars.
Yeah.
And I almost have to sort of stand in the road, sort of like hand up so we can get across. That needs, I saw there was some highways people doing the other side of the road, and unfortunately they whizzed away before I could get to them. But we really need to sort that corner out, because it's not easy probably for a car driver, it's almost impossible for a pedestrian. And I think that needs to be sorted. Further on down the Moreton Road, I would also highlight that I've mentioned this before and we've still got nowhere, that the actual dropped curb situation at the intersection of Moreton Road and Badgers
yeah,
makes no sense at all.
No.
yeah.
There should be some drop curbs there to make it accessible for people with pushchairs or for people on wheels of any kind. Because at the moment, it doesn't, as I say, it's nonsensical, but that needs resolving.
Thank you. Is that where you're going into the park? Or
Yeah,
No, it's when the park's on the right, if you go a bit further,
It's
there are pavements on both sides of Badgers, if you can't.
Just wait.
There's just raised curbs, and there shouldn't be raised curbs. There's a drop curb, but the other side of the road is a raised curb, so it needs someone to just get, so you need a drop curb there, and a drop curb there, and then it's come out.
thank you. Lisa?
I did a survey a couple of years ago on my own with my mobility scooter and took photographs. So what I can do is either go out again or check on Google Maps, see if they're updated and if my photographs changed anyway. But I'm happy to forward them on, like I said, do a new one, because it was ridiculous when I was trying to get crossing roads and I had dogs with me as well, so it was annoying.
Thank you.
So yeah, I don't mind doing that.
Robin?
Right.
one of the things that we perhaps need to be minded to is asking, we're never going to, what we'll get is we haven't got any money to drop curbs and we're short of money and such and such. So maybe we need to be minded to, when we have developments, is to put in the section 106, because we always do leisure, so you get a set of swings or you get something else. But disability perhaps is something we should get into section 106. Contributions to improving cognitivity and disability in the town.
Accessibility.
Accessibility, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because everyone gets a cycle route that gets put in, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Wixie Way or whatever they call it. So you're on a push bike, it's okay.
Got a pram.
Got a pram, nothing about that. And mums and people.
And old ladies with your control.
Yeah, so maybe we should, through you, Chairman, either put a motion to council that our policies, it should be included in section 106. It's the only way we're going to get a pool of money available to start resolving the point that John's been raising, because otherwise we could then say we want a pool of money to resolve section 106 problems with disability. That way,
No accessibility.
when a development comes forward for completion, but it shouldn't be tied to that development, because people are disabled anywhere in the community. So we could use that money to go around and solve these pinch points which we rightfully want resolved.
That could be an agenda item for the next plan.
Yeah, to have a motion on there, something.
No, I could just photograph before then.
See if I can find out whether there's something along those lines in this, is it in the neighbourhood plan, is there something in the neighbourhood?
Well,
Yeah, it is written into the neighbourhood plan about accessibility.
we need it wrote into section 106 agreements.
Okay, that's different. Thank you, Robin.
If Lisa can do.
I have
a bit.
one other one which I'm very happy to say is a bonus. Holloway Spinney, which has had problems with motorcycles, scramble motorcycles, because the 5-bar gate at the bottom end was lying down. That's now been replaced. It's been put back up again, and it's been padlocked with a sign from Parks, do not use this gate. And further along, where come up to Boswell Court, you got up the bank and down, the wooden steps have been completely rebuilt and railings put up. So with members' agreement, I'd like to thank Neil Pasmore, this committee. And thank Neil Pasmore and Court for the work he and his team have done. They've done a really, really good job. I sent Catherine the photograph.
Have they put it in properly? And I have, because I have put 1 or 2 gates in myself.
Well, all they've done is put it back on the hinges. It's
Oh, well, they
not-
haven't redone the gate post.
No. Well, they have one of them because they've rotted. Yeah, they put a new gate post in.
Yeah, I used to dig mine by hand.
Yeah.
The only way to do it properly.
Well, Neil Pasmore has been farming all the way.
I know, I met Neil the other day.
Yeah.
Fine, there's nothing else on that. Chairman's items for information. This is to let you all know there will be an extraordinary council meeting on the 29th of July before Environment. Because we have Osier Way Phases 2 and 3.
And the section 278.
Yeah. And all of this is preserved matters coming up.
So
It's too late.
It's just before the summer, very clear.
Fran's very kindly agreed that we could hold it for our environment committee.
Excellent.
Because it's due back by the 5th of August.
Yeah,
Oh.
so we're very short.
Planning isn't
on time.
until the 19th, and full council isn't until September.
it should be.
Steve will be sending out a notice in due course
Okay,
about the extraordinary council meeting 29th of July. Thank you very much.
okay.
Next meeting, Monday the 19th of August. With that, where are we tonight? It's 5.
1, 2.
Tonight.